So, yeah. Yeah, it's yeah. All the QR codes. Yeah. I know. The slide.
Nice to meet you as well. Yeah. I figured I'd pay a tribute to talk about my own industry. I know Ben many years ago from Great. Yeah, I'm really excited about
Can you get a picture of me and Frank?
I am in a tech startup, but I take more of a domain
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. If I could have your attention, please. We did it. We are here, everybody, at GPT.NYC. Thank you so much for being here. This is an incredible night. We are sold out, and this is our first ever expert roundtable. And we couldn't do it without you. So I just want everyone to give ourselves a round of applause for being here on this special night. We're here to learn. We're here to connect. So, as you all know, you're all interested in ChatGPT and generative AI and how you can make money with it. There's so many opportunities now, and they're all at everybody's fingertips. If you have an idea and a vision, you can make it happen with these new tools if you know how to make them work for you. So I just want to applaud you all for being out here and connecting and learning, because that's really what it takes to stay ahead of the curve. And I'm just so grateful that we can all fill this room together and learn about how to monetize generative AI and ChatGPT. So we got two awesome panels tonight. Before we get into all the fun, I would like to just kind of open the floor for just, I would say about 5 minutes tops. If anyone has a business or an event coming up, or you're looking for a dev or a co-founder, now's your time. Let's say 30 seconds tops. Frank is going to be looking out, so if you go over 30 seconds, he's going to cut the mic. So if you have anything you'd like to share with the room, consider this a free advertising opportunity. You don't have to, but I'm just going to open it up right now to anyone who would like to share anything. There we go. I figured I could stall as long as possible. Introduce yourself, buddy.
I'm Rory Bernier, and I work in web development, and so I'm looking to help anybody, business owners, small or medium-sized businesses, with developing the website, mobile apps, whatever you need. We work with Salesforce, we outsource, so we save you money, we do a high-quality job. Again, Rory Bernier, eating some nice cookies here, enjoying the event.
Well, that's awesome, though, because some of you have app ideas, you're not really sure what the next steps are, so be sure to connect with Rory. And I saw Alexa's hand up, so I'm going to pass that over right now.
Alexa. Thank you. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Thanks, both of you, for putting this together. Not pitching anything, but just something to ponder as we, take strides into the AI space. I'm a humane technologist, so I focus on the intersection of advanced technology and human evolution and development. So in everything that we're building, I just will hope that we can get back to the basics, build technology that actually supports humanity and really thinks about where we're going for the future. So I'm online, Alexa Eden, I talk about it a lot, and if you ever want to talk about how to make sure that your technology is pivoting in the right direction for humanity, I'm here for it. So thanks, guys.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks so much, Alexa. All right.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Phil. Some friends and me, we started what we're hoping is the first GPT agency. We build tough tech products, we build ChatGPT plugins, we build ChatGPT API integrations, we build custom LLMs, we do a lot of stuff. We're a small group of people, I'll name drop this, we all met out of Harvard's Innovation Lab and are just trying to make some really cool shit with new generative AI tech.
All right, everybody, you heard it.
Hey, it's great to be at another one of Ben's events. I'm a real estate investor and Frank's events. If any of you want to have a great summer, I have rentals on the Jersey Shore and in Brooklyn. I'm a real estate investor, so give me a call, 10% off. And if any of you want to connect about real estate, how AI could apply to real estate investing, I'd love to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Gallus. The house is awesome, actually. I've seen it multiple times. I love it. I'll be there this weekend. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right, James. Let's do it.
Hey everybody, good to have you here tonight. I met all of you, but you don't necessarily all know my name. My name is Zachus. I work closely with Ben and Frank. I'm currently building a generative AI platform to help real estate agents write listing descriptions in a fraction of the time. Our platform is specifically for agents in the New York City market. So if any of you are a real estate agent or know any real estate agents, I'd love to connect with you.
Thank you so much, James. And I see we are adjusting the live stream. Hello to everybody on YouTube. We are live streaming this event right now, so thank you, Mark, for fixing when I messed up, for sure. And we have time for one last one. If anyone has anything else they'd like to shout out before we jump into the fun. No? Oh, yeah, all right, cool. Let's do it.
My name is Justin. I'm CTO of an innovation lab within a Fortune 100, and we're using AI on a lot of interesting applications in the insurance space. Also, a part of the founding team of on-prem large data models. We're calling it kind of like neural automation. It's called avro.ai. So if you want to get in touch, j@avro.ai. Thanks.
Awesome. And we'll give a round of applause to everybody who shared the cool stuff they're working on. I love to see it. I appreciate y'all sharing. And just quick housekeeping before I pass off to Frank. Out of respect for this amazing, amazing space, we do need to be out of here by 8 o'clock, but there is a pub right outside that I will be leading the charge to for the after party, so we can continue the conversations after 8 there. So I just want to give a shout out to a very, very special man who I'm grateful to work with on this awesome event, Mr. Frank Casal. Thank you, Frank, for being part of this.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for hinting that you might buy us all drinks later.
Oh, I forgot my wallet at home.
Great, well, great to be here. You know, about almost to the month, 10 years ago, I was involved with a team that launched an event on robotic process automation and intelligent automation, and people like Tom Young and a couple of you were actually there. It was very interesting to see how things played out, kind of how we anticipated. We weren't 100% right, but a lot of what we anticipated as far as robotic process automation being a big deal, intelligent automation having a significant impact on the enterprise, and it being a really big marketplace. So as that, I would say a couple $2 billion later in company valuations, it was a pretty wild ride, and we're still in that game a bit. But people look back at that event and they refer to it kind of as like the Woodstock of automation, being there on the front. And a handful of people have approached me on this 10-year anniversary to do something there, and we may if we get around to it, but that would be a fun project. And some of the things played out as we anticipated, and some of them didn't. What didn't play out is the fear of all these jobs being lost. So I know many of you here want to talk about many different aspects of AI, and many of you here are fearful. There are many, I would say, parallel narratives out there right now with regard to AI in general. Certainly this big tsunami, fast-moving tsunami that is large language models and generative AI, topics ranging from, is this really AI? Is this solid AI? Is it intelligent? Is it really sentient? Should it be regulated? What about the future of mankind? There are all sorts of narratives out there, and I respect them all, but our focus here today, our promise to you all here, is really to talk about how to monetize AI. And Ben can tell you that when we proudly posted one of the first kind of promos for this gathering, one of the responses on LinkedIn was, "Why are you Americans so obsessed with making money?" So, is that true?
Yeah, yeah.
Who's that jerk? Oh, it's his hand, it's that guy. So, but then I wondered, I said, gee, maybe we're doing the wrong thing here. And then after speaking to many dozens of people, I'm convinced that 99% of the people that will be monetizing generative AI will be average people looking to either add to their current income with a side hustle, or looking to juice up a startup, or just looking to make money to pay for college, or see it as kind of a cooler alternative to driving an Uber. I mean, we're talking about really the democratization of artificial intelligence here. As someone referred to it several weeks ago as AI's iPhone moment. So another comment on LinkedIn, I had some fun over the weekend. You know, sometimes you see something, you wonder, should I get into this debate? And I try to keep it all friendly, but there's someone from the Nordics that referred to this as kind of a shortcut tool. And they were kind of downplaying it. Listen, everyone's allowed their opinion. I have my own opinion. But my response was, after thinking about 1,000 things I wanted to say, was referring to this wave of generative AI as a shortcut tool would be like referring to the invention of the steam engine as a really cool vaporizer. Because I think what we're talking about here is something of that scope as far as impact on not only business but humanity going forward. Putting something this powerful in everyone's hands, yes, there's some scary things, but there's a lot of good that can come from it. If you think about it, the majority of the obstacles for people with ideas and hopes are the how. How do I get the money? How do we get the talent? How do we get the infrastructure? So a lot of the speed bumps for how are flattened. So now people out there that don't have access to maybe VC money, not everybody's like Brian just speed dials, and next thing you know, there's people waiting in line. The average people, they don't have access to that kind of money. So now you don't. And I'll be honest with you, if I was a VC, I'd be wondering about how vital, how relevant I am in the next decade, when people could do a lot without funding. Also, for the gentleman creating websites, I would pay close attention today, because yours is one of the businesses getting disrupted. So many of us, there are people here in the outsourcing business that could be disrupted. There are people in the automation business getting disrupted. People here in the funding business. I had some questions of my colleague Jermaine talking about new and improved ways to get funding. So this is cool. You're here, and as my colleague Ben said, you applauded being here. Take a picture, because it won't take 5 years. This is moving so quickly. 12, 24 months, you could say you were here. This is not the first event on this topic, but it's certainly ours. And maybe one of the first talking really about just how to monetize, how to maybe do what you've always wanted to do, and seeking financial freedom and independence that you weren't able to do. So we do have 2 panels. First one is going to be about how to monetize, as Ben mentioned. Second one is something we added at the last minute. People started calling us that were either in the outsourcing space, ITO, BPO, labor arbitrage, right? Or the automation space, because we see significant disruption there. Last thing I'll say is there are people here from big companies, and there are people here from small companies, and there are people here from no companies. What happens when the power shifts is that the power shifts. So I think the people that are likely the most nervous, or should be, if they know what's going on, are people that are currently in power, that are currently dominating, that have legacy models, legacy technology. I think the average Fortune 500 company will probably take 24 months to make a decision on the first wave of technology here by the time it gets through procurement, cybersecurity, and everything else. And the cycle seems to be changing every 90 days. So I don't know how the big companies, I don't know how they keep up at this point. So I think the power will shift to the startups, and the power will shift to the individuals. So with that, we'll switch over to the first panel, and we'll have at it. This is a small enough audience that please be interactive. We want it to be fun. So if you're on the first panel, come on up. Ben, Jermaine, Oh, cool. Everybody's ready.
everybody.
He's back, he's
Hey,
back.
round of applause, let's
Ben is so charismatic. I told Ben, I used to be Batman, I walk into a room with him, I'm suddenly Robin. It's okay, I accept that. I accept that. All right, we're ready to go? So, for starters, I will ask each of my, so once again, the topic is how to monetize. So if you're here, you're wondering how to get in the game, whether it's, you have a startup in mind or an existing startup that you want to maybe juice up a little bit, or you have a really good job, you just like to make, twice the money on the side with less hours. The hustle, the side hustle of all times. That's what we're going to talk about. Anything else related to this topic? So, Jermaine, in from outskirts of Houston.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about yourself. A little quick interview, my friend. Hopefully that mic is on.
I think it's on now. Can you guys hear me?
There you go.
Yeah. So I flew in from Houston, north of Houston, the Woodlands area. I've been in the hedge fund, family office, private equity space for going on 12 years now in Texas. And built the world's first affordable housing DAO on top of the Juicebox platform with using Solidity. But also been playing with technology and AI for a bit. I built different prompts and chatbots for real estate, for construction, particularly in the multifamily commercial spaces and things like that. So super excited to be here. Frank's been great, Ben's been great, all these guys have really welcomed me to Jersey and New York.
Jersey!
And it's my first time ever in New York or Jersey. So I really
Welcome to it.
Yeah, I know, right? So I really enjoy it. I've really been enjoying my time here, and I can't wait to share what my knowledge and what I've done and how I've monetized AI and in real life situations, as opposed to building eBay stuff and selling on Amazon and all these other things, which are great. But these are things that involve lots of capital, assets, and et cetera. So happy to be here.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah. Please introduce yourself.
Sure, Abraham Maldonado, born and raised in New York City. I live down the Jersey Shore now. My house is not for rent. I tried that once, not doing it again. It wasn't worth the money. Co-founder Create Labs. I'm also an ambassador for OpenAI. So I was the first person in this room to get access to GPT-3, to chat, to all those models. And we had this kind of moment as a group, the ambassadors, it's like 7 of us, 8 of us, back in 2020, when we were all just kind of like hunkered down. We were part of that early private beta with Greg and Sam, and have seen kind of the iterations and have had our aha moments, and now we're seeing the public aha moment. We're like, told you so. Like, so we're having a lot of fun with it, and I do Create Labs now as a generative AI shop, so we do a lot of enterprise development. We develop products for startups to raise on if they don't have any technical expertise in-house on AI. And obviously we have products that we want to see out in the world. And I developed the first AI virtual human built on ChatGPT or GPT-3. Her name is Clara. And now me and Clara kind of hit the road together and let people interact with her. And she goes and speaks to schools as a great community ambassador. So it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. I have to tell you, my friend, we were really so excited to have you. When Ben called me, told me you were going to take the time to participate with us. Thank you so much. Okay, Ben, we know who you are, but we're going to start with what you did. I'm going to start with you. I believe so. The plan here is to talk about use cases, right? So you think about what you can do, what you can build, and kind of what you built, and then how you did it. So, Ben, I think your first use case was it event related?
Yeah.
We start there.
Yeah.
So what was the kind of the genesis of the idea, and then what did you do from there?
Well, I mean, I've come from an events background for a long time now. I've done a lot of different things, but I just really love bringing people together and create a community like this. And with ChatGPT, it really, really helps that process and allows for a greater way to connect with anyone that I'm trying to invite to the event. For example, the whole marketing campaign for this event that we're at right now was a complement of ChatGPT. essentially with this kind of tool, and listen, it's about the engineering of the prompts. It's not like I just outsourced the whole event to ChatGPT. But with these tools, you can say, hey, this is what our event is, this is who's part of the event, these are the goals for what we're trying to accomplish. Can you please give me a marketing campaign that's going to optimize the attendance of this actual event? And as you can see, this room is full right now, and a lot of what has been marketed to the community has come from ChatGPT. And I mean, there's a lot we're gonna all cover tonight, but I would say any business you're in and anything you're working on, the marketing, the content creation, the social media side of it is just a huge, amazing use case with ChatGPT that has been so helpful in just really getting the word out there and getting in front of a lot of people that are interested in this sort of thing. So anything from venue selection to recruiting speakers to marketing the event, and even coming up with some of these panel discussions we're gonna talk about today. You can, if you've never made an event before in your life, you can do an end-to-end event production leveraging ChatGPT.
What did you use? What tools did you use? Did you use anything beyond?
So ChatGPT 4, I used Midjourney for a couple of the graphics for it. We actually have a sponsorship deck that was created with a tool known as Tomy, which is very interesting. There's Tomy and there's Gamma. Those are two tools that you can create pitch decks with just a simple prompt, which is so cool because I don't know about any of you, does anyone else hate making pitch decks or decks in general? Yeah, me too. So you can do a simple prompt into these tools and just say what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's pitch or for sponsorship or just presenting your idea, and it'll create a whole deck based off your prompt with images created with DALL-E or Midjourney. So leveraging these kind of tools. And one more thing I will say before I let everyone else speak is futuretools.io. I want you all to take a note of that because that's a very, very important one for all different use cases. Futuretools.io is somewhere you could go and you could say, I'm looking to make a deck, I'm looking to make social media content. You could filter it based on use case and it gives you a list of tools. And as we know, there's so many tools being pumped out there and it's hard to keep track of them all. So it's good to have an aggregate of that. And that's just something that's kind of helped me figure out the best thing to use to help make this a really awesome experience for everybody.
Thank you, Ben. Jermaine, I want to switch over to the other side because you're one of the instigators behind this event, and then you and I will be talking about announcing a little bit later for those here. But I'm sure you remember. You text me like out of left field. You think about the tipping point or something, right? You're following something that seemed interesting, then you go back to whatever you're doing, and you see something else, and then someone else tells you, and over weeks and weeks you say, wow, I think this is. Then I get a text like in the middle of the afternoon from Jermaine saying, this GPT is insane, man. You have to call me. I'm doing this thing. I called them, and I don't know which one you want to talk about first. You want the investment one first, real estate? Which one do you want to talk about first? Which is your first adventure?
Let's talk about the investment first. So when it comes to raising funds or involving yourself in real estate, whether it's single-family homes, multifamily, commercial, things like that, the biggest entry is capital, right? No matter how you slice it, whether you're raising money from a syndication deal, or you're doing, you have rich friends that are loving you and invest in your idea for partnerships, or you're trying to acquire clients and things like that. So. From being in the space, and I worked for a family office for 8 years, they're actually based here in New York, and they were investing in Texas. I always wanted to, there was always that gap between finding partners and things like that. So once GPT came out, I wanted to see if I could actually not just build something or build an app, which are great, but to actually use it in real life, right? And so what I did was, I trained GPT first and said, hey, you're a 30-year investor in real estate, right? I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. And he said, okay, I'm ready. And so I fed the questions to him and said, hey, create me an email that would target specific investors that invest in syndication deals that are actively invested in real estate. And I want the subject line to be, something dynamic to where, hey, you don't miss this opportunity, nothing like that, but that lists the properties. That way it doesn't get lost in the hundreds of thousands of emails that a lot of these guys receive on a daily. So it printed it out for me, which is fine. That was the first step. The second step was I need to find these people, right? So I went to something called OpenVC, and OpenVC is an AI where it curates every single venture capitalist, every single angel investor, family office, no again, GPT, their bios, every single one. I chose 20, and I fed their bios all into ChatGPT. And I said, craft me a specific email, specifically to each one of them, to where it would resonate with them, they would definitely read it and not skim through it. So out of those 20, I sent out the emails. Out of those 20, 12 called, and I booked 12. Out of those 12, 6 invested with me. And so, and you know, we're talking between, you know, $500,000 to $6 million type projects. Nothing crazy, nothing big. And, you know, that's where I just came from in Atlanta. They flew me to Atlanta. We signed the paperwork, we're doing the deal. As soon as I leave here, we're going back to Houston and we're getting started. So to me, it's about wordplay, it's about simplicity, but it's also about utilizing the tools of GPT and other different AI tools. I'll have 1,000 other examples of how they work, but it proved to me that this wasn't something that was made up. This wasn't something that, you know, everyone's just playing around with it and things like that. No, I actually used it, made real money, made real connections, and it worked out great. So that's the first one.
That's the first one.
Yeah,
We'll-
yeah.
We'll get back to the second one and give
Yeah.
Ron a chance. So Ron, you were in a cool spot very early that the rest of the world was not in. As you shift from, as Jermaine mentioned, kind of getting to understand this, kind of getting familiar with the tools, to shifting maybe to a real world application, is there one that you could point to that you did for yourself or someone else where it had to do with impacted business or somebody's top line or bottom line?
Well, impacting the real world was my first objective with it, because prior to AI, I was doing a lot of social impact tech work where I was trying to create pipelines for Black and brown folks to get into tech, creating more access to technology for underserved communities, looking at how you can leverage tech to solve real world problems. So when Greg gave me access, I was like, I'm going to try to solve real world problems with this. I hope you don't mind. He's like, have at it. And then I tried to do some things. He was like, maybe not that. So, but we like what you're doing. You know, the first thing I made was called Kira, Know Your Rights AI, which was a way to leverage generative AI when you're in a police encounter, where it can tell you your rights, almost like a voice assistant or a chatbot. It's like, all right, I just got pulled over by the cops. What should I do? What's within my rights? Or I'm a passenger, or I'm a spectator. You know, how do I navigate this appropriately? Because sometimes things go left when you don't know what your rights are. And this is very early on at the time where every use case had to get approved by the leadership at OpenAI. So they looked at it and they were like, well, this is great. We don't know necessarily if this is right for the public right now because of this data sensitivity, but we like where you're going with this, so can you become an ambassador? So that's how I became an ambassador off of that project. And then since then, you know, a lot of clients, when ChatGPT hit, a lot of companies, enterprise reached out and they said, okay, well, my entire staff is using this on the weekends, but how do we use it for our company? And that's where we were looking at, like, how to leverage corpuses of data and data sets that are proprietary to a company, the brand messaging, the tone, the voice, all of the product information, to add a language model that is built off of that and trained off of that, and connecting that to ChatGPT. And this is before plugins, this is before data retrieval. We were doing this before there was a mechanism for it, or LangChain. Because brands are like, we want this technology, but we don't want it to know all things. That ChatGPT, you can ask it 1,000 questions. Brands don't want that. They want you to ask one question. So now we're working on projects where there's a specific use case for different clients, for different brands that have and that meeting is a pain in the ass because they don't know what they want, right? And you gotta like, you do 1,000 things with this AI, so let's just narrow it down to what are the most impactful things to your bottom line, or what's the low-hanging fruit, and let's start there, and then we can just scale up from there.
So, a question before I get back to Jermaine's second story. So, I'm sure you're familiar with the Samsung piece that was published maybe a couple of weeks ago. Are you at all? Maybe where a couple of engineers were working, and they dumped a bunch of IP into, they leveraged it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so you get, well, let me just, for the sake of those who you did, and I'll do my best, you can probably do a better job than me, but basically, there was fear that a handful of engineers at Samsung shared some proprietary internal data with ChatGPT, correct me where I'm wrong here, in an exercise to maybe leverage the tool, and then suddenly realized or thought or were told that now the engine has that IP, something you would not normally do. So on the front end of anything new, there's always mistakes, right? It doesn't matter what it is. I hear two different stories from different groups of people that yes, that is an issue to be worried about for enterprises, or no, not really, that's been resolved. What's the real answer?
We get asked it a lot, so the couple answers is, it is now in default opt-out of using that information to train the model, where before it was a default opt-in. So now it's a default opt-out, and I think it's held for maybe like 30 days just from a moderation standpoint, and then it's not training the model. But I think we're getting to a point now where we're kind of outgrowing just like having 2 or 3 language models, and these clients are like, all right, well, maybe for phase 1 or maybe for the pilot we use OpenAI, but after that, can you just train us our own model? Can you just create our own model that is not reliant on another system, so we don't have to worry about handing over our proprietary data to another service.
Interesting. But I've done a few AI deals in my career, and I'm a technologist, but then aren't you limited at that point to the knowledge? You don't have the collective wisdom of everything from multiple clients.
They don't want the collective wisdom. They want you to know their stuff.
They want their stuff.
They want
Okay,
their stuff.
interesting. So that you could argue that's an opportunity right there. I'm sure there'll be a handful of ventures popping up with creating tools that are specific for each, kind of siloed by customer. Is that it, for the most part? Interesting. Okay, so a couple weeks go by.
I have a question, Frank.
Yes, yeah, go ahead, Tom.
That architecture where you go to a specific corpus to train just what I wanted to know.
Yes.
So think of, I have a universal corpus, that's what we know as GPT, and I might have a domain corpus, that is what you want to know.
Yes.
And then there's one layer above that, which is semantic, which is I want you to know everything about me.
Yeah.
And then mash those together. Does that work?
In layers. So when you interact with it, we make sure that it really doesn't go to the foundational layer, that it can get its answer from those first top 2 layers that we've added on top of it. You'd really have to kind of go left field for it to get to the core 175B, what we call it, like the GPT 175 billion parameters, because we don't want you to go down there. We want you to just stay within what we've trained it on, and how we've prompted it to give it guardrails to just stay within that framework of your information.
Interesting.
That is interesting. So,
So that just gets to the point. Those 3 corpuses are going to exist in a hierarchy. There's going to be tension between what you just said, because people.
I can't, yeah, just a little closer, a little louder.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was speaking loud. You can have those 3 corpuses, and they're going to interact with each other.
Yes.
And there's going to be tension, business tension, political, legal, etc. Do you see a future where people are going to create that semantic layer, which is just about them? I want you to know everything. I have all the email that I've ever had. I never deleted anything since 1998. I want you to read it all. I want you to look at all my photos. I want you to look at all my videos. I want you to look at all my social networks. Now you know about me.
Yeah.
Now that interacts with the domain one, and then also interacts with the generic one. And you can see how that would all work together. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, this notion of like relying on, for years, and I say years like this has been around forever, but for years prior to ChatGPT, the mantra was always don't rely on it for knowledge. Don't rely on it for information. It's only in this new phase of ChatGPT, they're like, you can ask it information and it's safe to get an answer. Before that, it was like, just use it for the reasoning. So think, like the future of this technology is, there is no parameter set. There is no data, right? It's just you're getting these models that just have the reasoning capability of a ChatGPT with an empty data set. And then it's on you or your brand, your company, to fill up that corpus and that receptacle of data of what you want it to know and what you want it to be an expert on. So until then, we just lay it on top of the 175B and make sure that it stays within this realm before it has to go down for something that's in the data set.
Okay. Is that good, Tom?
Yeah, yeah,
You crafting the business plan?
I'm just
Count
thinking
me
how it's gonna play out.
in. Count me in. So, second text I get from Jermaine, maybe 3 weeks later, is, you're not gonna believe this one, you have to call me right away. And I call him and he's like huffing and puffing on the phone. I think he's having an anxiety attack. I don't know, are you comfortable talking about the job search one or no?
Oh my God, I didn't know you were bringing that up.
Stay on your toes.
Oh man, okay.
I just sold one, let's see if it's the same one.
Yeah, I'll talk about that one. Now, none judgmental, okay? So I wanted to test the limits of how far this could go when it came to regular jobs, or, you know, whether it's jobs in real estate or jobs in tech or anything like that. So what I did was I trained the model and said, hey, I want to create, you know, 3 resumes, okay? And the resumes are, I want you to you know, use your own analogy, but these 3 resumes each have a different experience and each have a different genre of what the jobs are going to apply to. And so then I use Midjourney, of course, to generate the photos, of course, for the resume and things like that. And before I completed the resumes, I read through them and I trained myself on, you know, me becoming each one of that, you know, that person. And one was in sales engineering, another one was in real estate, and another one, what the last one was in?
Finance or something?
Huh?
Was it something finance related?
Yeah, it was like financial analyst or something like that. So, okay. So GPT created the key points, and I said, when you create these resumes, I want them to resonate with recruiters. And so what I did was I fed it the job description for each job that was posted on LinkedIn, real jobs. And once it did that, it printed out these resumes, and of course, you know, it was my picture on each one of them. And I got started. I applied for those jobs. I'm looking for a job, but I applied for those jobs. And for all 3 of them, I got interviews. And so it started getting real. I was like, well, maybe I should cut it off right now because I'm maybe taking the opportunity to the people who actually want these jobs. So no judgment, right? And so I got to the 2nd round, and I got to the 3rd round. And once that happened, I didn't tell you this, right? But I, you know, said, hey.
Before you go there though, did you mention to me that one of them required financial analysis and spreadsheet work?
Yeah, and so I had GPT create that as well. And I trained myself on it, I went through it. But I had GPT give me a walkthrough and a how-to guide and a step-by-step guide, and I just learned from it, right? Some thing, and I said, and when I learned from it from that, I said, well, you know, you're 30 years worth of, you know, a college professor, XYZ, things like that, and you know, I want you to teach me and the how-to and all those other things like that, and it went from there. But at the end of everything, I did reach out and say, hey, this was kind of like an experiment. You know, I wanted to see how far this could go, as far as how far I could get. And you know, the recruiters were all fine with it. They were like,
But is it fair to say though that there are, in that particular space, if you're a candidate looking for a job, or if you're a recruiter looking for a candidate,
it will optimize your resume. You know, the vast amount of knowledge that this thing has, and it could break things down to you to where you're in kindergarten to learn any type of business, and from beginner all the way to advanced. If you have the work ethic, of course you can just sit there and scan it with your brain, but you know, if you have a work ethic and it's something that you really like, you know, it can be done. And, you know, I proved that to you, and I just, it's scary, but I like scary. You know, I like to shift around in my seat a little bit and be uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And that's what GPT does, you know, you just have to know what to ask it, you have to know how to train it, and you can do anything with it. So, but that was just a small experiment, you know, that I did, and it was pretty amazing on what happened.
So how do you train it?
So when it comes to certain ways to train, I'm glad you asked the question. I do prompts. So I do prompts from scratch, and prompts basically are keywords that you feed the model and, you know, train it to get it to what you want to do. There's other ways of doing it that are a little bit more technical, but if you want to keep it very simple, it's prompts. And you can go, you know, find different prompts on something called AI PRM. And they have prompts as well that you can use at email templates for reaching out to investors, to SEO leads, to lead generation for different businesses and things like that. So, but if you want to get very technical, you could easily run ML with no coding experience. I don't know how to code, you know, but with no coding experience. And these things are readily available to you, but they're spread out everywhere. If you're going on Twitter or going on TikTok or YouTube or LinkedIn or Google or anything like that, there's not one place where you can find all of these tools, right? Wish there were, but you know, that would be very interesting.
I got to add one thing on the prompt side of things. If you're not, and this is a great point, if you don't know exactly what prompts to ask, because a lot of it is really understanding how to use it. I started by just saying really terrible prompts, like, hey, write me this, write me that, and it would give me things I didn't like. Then I started asking ChatGPT to give me prompts based on what I'm looking for. I actually asked the tool, I said, this is what I'm trying to do, I'm not really trying to ask you, can you tell me? And it started giving me resources about how to properly use it, right? So when I was in the early days, I mean, I'm still in the early days, I'm always learning, but don't be afraid to ask it for advice on how to use it. And also, there's one other thing I'll add there, is that Prompt Base is another great place that's a marketplace for prompts. I listed a prompt on there, and it actually solves, that's a little proof of concept for me, and you can buy and sell prompts there based on different use cases. So if you want a little hack, I mean, you could ask ChatGPT to write you 100 really great prompts and list it on Prompt Base and see if you get them sold. But you know, that's just a little
How much did you sell?
I just sold for $3. It was done as a proof of concept. But if you get 100, I'm just saying it exists. And there are people on there who actually do sell a lot of them. I've just started trying it out, but it is something that does have a lot of traction.
If you know how to talk, you know how to prompt. It is you simply just talk to the machine. There is not a secret sauce to it. It's what makes it more intimidating is calling it a prompt. It's just having a conversation with the machine. And when you speak to it, and you say, this is what I want to accomplish today, this is what I need, this is why I'm in this situation to begin with, this is what I'm hoping to get out of it. If you just go with that, you'll be fine.
Ron, it's a good point. There's two questions I'll get to in a moment, but I know several people who are treating it like a modified Google, almost like how you would type in a search engine, and that's the struggle. And it's interesting for you to say, almost treat it like, I know the conversational AI space, but almost like just, like you say, treat it as if you were speaking with a subject matter expert, to have a conversation with it.
And for a long time, for those of you who don't know how to code in the room, like myself and Jermaine, you deal with imposter syndrome in this space all the time, right? And I did early on. I'm in this room with like the most amazing software engineers in the world, and they're booking office hours with me to ask me how to use AI. I'm like, oh shit.
You're like, what do I tell you?
So then I'm sitting there, and mind you, my background before tech, I was a middle school teacher. I was an educator. All of my degrees are in education. Bachelor's, master's, PhD are all in education. So I was like, we'll see how this goes. And they were like, how are you so good with the prompting? Like, what's this keystroke? What's the command? And I'm like, oh, you're looking for a command? There ain't no command. You just gotta like talk. They're like, well, what do you do? I'm like, hello, how are you? I want to do this today. I'm gonna give you this as an example. This is what I want back. Let's start. So here's an example. Oh, well, thanks for what you gave me back, but I'd like to tweak it a little bit and maybe rephrase it this way. Let's try this again. And then the machine will get to a point and say, okay, I get it now. And then you're off to the races. That's just pure communication skills. Your ability to articulate, your ability to form an idea. It has nothing to do with coding or anything else.
Okay, a couple quick things.
So how did the nerds deal with that?
They struggle with it. They struggle with it. You know, they don't have the same communication skills to like, you know, I know people who know AI better than me, but they just don't know how to get on stage and speak on it. You know, which is why I'm represented by a speaking bureau and they're not. You know, even though they work at Google or they work at Apple, because the communication skills, it was a lost art and now it's getting its moment again.
Okay, a couple people waiting for, please, gentlemen, right here in the back, blue, shirt.
So I hear a lot about ChatGPT, but you know, that's cached at like September 2021, and you're asking, it seems like some current present day questions. Are you using Bing or anything else, or like, are you not seeing limitations just with ChatGPT?
I'll touch on that first, and I know you guys have great insights, but the thing is with GPT-4, which, I mean, you get GPT-4 if you just pay the $20 a month, it could take up to 25,000 words. So, I mean, I'll give you one example, something about my personal brand. I'm trying to, you know, build out my personal brand and create different concepts and offers based on what I do. So I can feed it up to 25,000 words, anything about my life. I mean, I know that can get a little sketchy, but it's true. Like, I can feed it my bio, my LinkedIn, my education, social media posts I've done in the past. The more you give it, the better your output's gonna be. So, to your point, it only goes up to 2021, but you can do a lot of modern day research, and if there's something more current than 2021, do as much research as possible, and then feed that into the model, and then it could build that from there.
Were you just doing the research traditionally?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. They might have a better process there, but I would do traditional research, put it all into a Google Doc, maybe 6 to 10 articles, and then feed that all in and say, this is what's happening, and then go do the prompt from there.
Thanks, Ben. Sir?
Just a tip, other ways of finding ways to ask GPT what you want and think about prompts is go to Twitter and search for something related to a prompt you want. You'll be interested in the threads that you'll find of interesting ways to prompt it, and also YouTube can be a very good source.
Yeah, YouTube is awesome.
Is that a big journey you had?
People think about like, asking questions in ways that I never would. Kind of, that's also like some of the way I don't have an engineering background.
Exactly.
And I can have some fun with a conversation beyond that, and being able to connect with tools. I'm a little bit lost there. So.
YouTube is great. I've watched so many YouTube videos all the time. Frank is always sending us the YouTube videos, right?
Kat, question? And then over to gentleman over here.
Or Abram, is that your name?
Yes.
Curious, did you use the Socratic method while you were teaching?
I used, so my background with education was called culturally responsive pedagogy. So cultural relevance, building off of a basis of understanding point of reference for students. So the best way for me to learn things from ChatGPT is I need a point of reference, usually based in pop culture. So like, explain quantum physics, you're gonna get encyclopedia answer. All right, now try that again, but explain it using metaphors and connect it to the Marvel universe. And I'm like, all right, let me break it down like this. Thanos is this, and then, you know, and just like that. And I've done it live with students in the classroom, like explain Python through Japanese anime. And it breaks down every concept in Python through
Okay, I'm just speeding up a little because I want to make sure we have time for the second, the lady and then the gentleman.
For an app already integrating with GPT, can you say a little bit in terms of GPT-3 versus 3.5 versus 4? I understand 4 is a little more expensive. What greater a range do I have if you can kind of pro and con it a little bit?
So for scaling at enterprise, it's going to be difficult. Right now, the best performance we're still getting out of DaVinci 3, 003.
Yeah.
And it's more expensive than 3.5 Turbo, but we're finding that, yes, scaling price-wise, 3.5 Turbo is better, but the reasoning is better, and the responses are better with 03.
How about 4?
4 is way too expensive. So it depends on your scale and your use case. So if it's an enterprise that wants this as an internal tool that only the org is going to use, then you can go more expensive because it's only going to be the org staff that's using it. But if you're trying to put something that's consumer facing and 1 million people are going to be prompting it, then you need to go with the cheaper model and the responses are going to be more diluted.
Not necessarily 1 million people are going to be prompting it. It's still going to be our prompts, but it's going to be 1 million users.
Yes.
So you still would recommend DaVinci 3?
Well, DaVinci 3 is even expensive for 1 million users. So you really, that's why a lot of people rate limit or don't give out a lot for free. And they always try and put out a subscription that covers the overhead of the interactions, and even that they rate limit to like, you can only get X amount a month until you tier up, because the whole overhead is the token usage.
Is there a bigger range of, like tokens in any of the models?
Say it again?
Are there a bigger range of tokens in the more advanced models?
Yes, so he mentioned 4 is
Yeah.
32K.
Okay.
There's a 32K model for 4, and the other ones are about 4K.
So if you allow me, I know there's a couple more questions. Allow me to move ahead. We'll have time for more questions on the end, and we're allowed to be in this room for a little bit on the end as well. So hang in there. Let me do this. I want to segue first. Before I segue, let's have a round of applause for our awesome panel. Thank you very much. And we're going to switch quickly to our second and final panel. YZ, come on up. Mr. Tom Young, the one and only. I think I'm going to sit. I don't think I could stand this long.
Mike?
I didn't know that you said. Oh, you want to sit in the middle, son? Keep you distant. In the middle. Okay, so great first panel. Got a tough act to follow, guys. So for those of you, there are several of you here that are in the services business that provide a service. It could be an outsourced service, it could be plain old-fashioned service, or it's an existing service. Your business model is about to be challenged. So ideally, we could get you from defense to offense on that. If you're in automation space, as YZ is, we want to talk about what to anticipate that will be disruptive there. So think of it this way. You kind of know your space, whatever it may be. You're selling intelligent document processing, right? Or conversational AI, or IT outsourcing, or business process outsourcing. And you think you know your competitors. You kind of have this figured out. You have your pricing model, you have your business model. You kind of rocking and rolling. And then lo and behold, here comes this thing. And then you have to revisit everything, right? And it's getting better and better and better. Not every year or two, like every 3 or 4 months. So I don't want to be like the dramatic guy, but I would say any existing service business or software business that is related to either labor arbitrage or automation or something that has to do with productivity or efficiencies is threatened at this point. Do you agree, Tom? What do you think?
Very much so. I mean, it's, we talked, this first panel was a lot about micro. So you could see how the micro affects at a personal level and how you're working. Now just multiply that out to the macro. There's not an industry, there's not a job category, anything that's going to be not disrupted by this. The biggest threats are going to come to the guilds. And the guilds are labor pools that are using credentials, education, and certifications to block access and innovation to their industry. So that would be accountants, lawyers, teachers, doctors. Right? Everything's primed for disruption. Now, they're going to fight it, but the world around is going to move. And large services deals, you know, I cut my teeth on doing outsourcing deals the last 25 years, probably did $100 billion in deals over the years. They're all out of market, right? Because they're doing labor arbitrage, and a huge component or a portion of the deal that was labor-based can now be replaced with software. So all of us are here experiencing some level of inflation in their personal lives. What's happening at the macro level is analog is inflating and digital is deflating. The cost of digital is coming down rapidly, and the cost of analog is going up, and labor is analog. Things are analog. So raw materials and labor is going up, and digital is coming down, which makes the business case for replacing people in the services business that much more compelling. So I think it's going to be, you know, pick your doomsday scenario, and I think I don't want to be negative because I think there's an equal opportunity for it to be positive, but I would think it would be irresponsible for us not to talk about the fact that hundreds of millions of jobs worldwide are going to be
Okay,
Wiped
do we
out.
have to go there yet, Tom? We said that. Did Wanda tell you to talk about that? Wanda, you put him up to that? Okay, so, no more questions for Tom. YZ, how would you describe the technology that you currently sell? And how often recently do people say, hey, yeah, how does this relate to ChatGPT, et cetera? And then third part of the question, what is your answer?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Cool. YZ here, not XYZ, by the way. Just YZ. I don't want to speak on the XYZ anytime soon.
I don't think you have to hold that.
Okay, all right. So we're in the automation business. It's called intelligent automation or intelligent document processing. Do you know how many people are working on our paper tax returns on the annual basis?
How many?
5,000 to 10,000 people. 3 shifts, 24/7. Like they work 3 shifts a day in 10 different service centers to process our paper tax returns. And one of the reasons that our citizens don't trust the government, so they, this is.
Jeez, I'm surrounded. All right, let's give this panel a
By the way, I used to be on our town council. I was an elected official myself, but go figure. But what I mean to say is that really, if you think about the automation, it's taking away people's jobs. And our company is part of that. But at the same time, I'm a big proponent of UBI. I think we can all live a better life. The next version of life will become realization of our fulfillment and everything. You know, who wants to do a data entry job? 8 hours a day. Copy, paste, copy, paste. Few people want to do that. Right?
YZ, there's 1.2 million unfilled tech jobs in the US today.
Yeah, more of the coding job, but which will be taken away by GPT and such.
Okay, I retract that data point.
No, I know, after a couple of years, I'm not really answering your question, but I think the point is that automation is the trend, and GDP helped it accelerate. Right, so this is a matter of fact.
So we had that meeting 10 years ago, right? So you and I made a lot of predictions back then, and I would be the first one to say I was wrong, right? Not wrong in what would happen, I was wrong in how fast it would happen. We underestimated the political and the people reaction to this technology. People didn't want to see their jobs sucked away through automation. So, you know, there's a quote in, like the reference on this is in Ernest Hemingway in the book, The Sun Also Rises. How did you go bankrupt? Gradually and then all of a sudden. And it feels like right now is the all of a sudden moment, where the sophistication of the software is happening at a level, you just heard it on the first panel. I mean, those are amazing stories. I love hearing stories like that. Because then you can go home, take a day off, and just do this stuff and be amazed at the results. And so this is the all of a sudden moment. And what's going to happen after that, you can all speculate, but there's going to be resistance to this. But while there's resistance, you know, the topic of this meeting today is how to monetize this. My advice is to study, to play with this, to go learn about it. Don't be intimidated by the fact that you can't code in Python. I can code in Python. You know why? Because I use ChatGPT. And I can convert that to C++ and JavaScript just like that. Right? Now, who cares? Right? That stuff's going to go the wayside. The right brain thinking where you get creative and you do all that stuff, that's going to be more valuable. So there's a lot of opportunities for people out there. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be left behind, but don't be one of them. And be one of the people who are on board here and help your family and friends. This is a huge social moment.
Okay, so thank you. I just want to get a couple, there was a question, gentlemen. Yes, sir. Please, could you stand up, please? Thank you.
So a lot of people here, obviously everybody here I'm sure is way ahead of myself on this curve with ChatGPT, all of these things, and like he just said that I would have said, anybody can code if you figure it out, chat. What does the layperson do, right? So if you put Google right now in front of my dad for a question, it'll take him an hour and a half to figure out that the restaurant's down the street. My question personally, and maybe it's inappropriate for this space, maybe, maybe layperson do, right? It's like, I don't want to fall behind on this technology. It's obviously brilliant, it's perfect. I love everything about it. How does the layperson get involved to the level of, you know, there's prompts, and again, I know prompt is just a term, right? It's the same thing with.
So can I take a first pass at that? Just something that maybe like, thank you. No, that's a.
Other than the answer being just like, get in there and do the work. I know that's part of the answer, but it's, how do you separate yourself from a bunch of people that you might work with, whether it's in real estate or, you know, I work in real estate, so it's like, how do I separate myself from that and use the technology properly without having truly proper background in the space, right? It's as you guys just said, it's become a super technology that I don't want to fall behind, so I want to understand how the layperson gets behind.
Gotcha. So I'll take a first pass, guys, if you don't mind. I'm not sure if anybody keeps up, I'll be honest. That's my controversial answer. I think this thing is clocking at about 70 miles an hour now. It's going to go to 100. And
500 tools a week come out.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I didn't mean to add to your anxiety, but that's so I almost wish it just yeah. That was horrible, isn't it? Yeah. So no, but so I don't know. I thought about how we keep up, and I think the rate of change. Listen, Tom said this. My buddy here, Tom, said this 7, 8 years ago. We're rapidly approaching the point where the pace of change is beyond our ability to keep up with it. He said that before. So here we are, right? You answered a couple different. You may recall when Siri was first announced, it was a whole big deal, and then it kind of floated a bit, and then we started to see examples of it would say, oh, you could ask it, you know, what the weather is, or you could ask it, what time is it in London? Now, why did they do that? Because people initially did not know what to do with it. It was cool, it was powerful, but it was odd to us. So don't forget that in the beginning, we all struggled with Siri. What do we do with this thing, right? So we all made it through that, we'll make it through this. Like another key difference here is, if you think about the programmers being less comfortable, us being more comfortable, as Ron mentioned, this is designed to be conversational. So I mean, so as we get smarter and it gets smarter.
I'm with you on the conversational, right? Like I'm with you on everything you just said. I was just asking, potentially selfishly, how do I stay on this trend?
So
I would start with just use the free version of ChatGPT or pay the $20 and get more. And then I also use Google. I use Google Bard in conjunction with ChatGPT, and I bounce back and forth. Now, Google Bard is not as good, but it's current. So if you're looking for currency in the data set, you go to Bard, you get that, and then you play it back, and you gotta be smart about how to do that. The other thing I would tell you to do is go on Twitter or YouTube and look at stuff and just pick a couple tools. You can't keep up, but there's 500 tools that come out. Not all of them are good. Some of them are great. But you know, got trends. In the last month, we have Auto GPT is crazy, where you get an API key and then you let it go and just run stuff. Then you talk about the plugins that are coming. And plugins are just another way of saying an API or an interconnection to the other platforms. Once you start tying all this stuff together, you're going to be able to do some amazing stuff. But I would just start small. It's intimidating for everybody. There's nobody in this room who's on top of all of this. Nobody. You can't. So just start using it. And look, if you're not a curious person, you're going to fall behind.
That's the key. I think that's the key. And really, I think technology becomes an equalizer. It equalizes everybody, but you have to be willing to do it. I mean, that's the key, in my opinion. So if you're shortening distance among all of us, then you became a coder, then I become a data scientist by doing this, right? I mean, that's really what it is. It's actually, you just need to do it.
Listen, Jermaine got 3 jobs out of this that he didn't take. As a Some people try to get 1 job, Jermaine, to report you. Some should be agencies. Do you have a question? Did you want to? Jermaine, did you have a question, buddy, or?
Oh, no.
I think you're
No, you're just winking at me, that's all.
Okay, so.
Exactly like I would rate the series. Get in there, get in the weeds, figure it out before it continues
down the path.
So can I say something that may address your anxiety? By the way, a lot of us are anxious. I speak to somebody, I received a text, 11 p.m., on my way home from the city, for the president of a local bank. Just seemingly flipping out. He saw a video, and I was, at first it seemed like a question about GPT, and then it seemed like a therapy session. So I seriously, it's funny, but I'll tell you, I think the rate of technophobia, which is a term, because I saw it this morning for the first time, the rate of technophobia is going to go up severely. There's going to be so much anxiety. And I think there's going to be two categories. I posted this morning, I have to remember, I said there's the billions of people on the planet, everyone will fall to one of the following three categories. Oh, crap.
Fearless.
What was that saying?
Clueless, fearless, that was two of them.
Clueless, fearless, and sleepless.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, so you're sleepless right now, right? I get it. If you're, no, I don't mean it. I mean you, like the president of that bank, like myself, depending on the day, you're like, you go, holy crap, right? What I have found is the thing you want to plug into at times like this is a network, which Jermaine and I will talk about a little bit later. We're going to pre-announce, and the reason I say that is when things move this fast, by the time a book is published, it's just a great paperweight, right? You go to an event, you're in, you're out, and then, you lose business cards, which nobody has anymore anyway, and it like feels good, and you're bugging out on the way home. I find that a network, a real organic network, a global network, which we'll be talking about, Jermaine and I, is the thing to plug into, because that's going to be real time. You're going to get information, you're going to make connections, you're going to find out what's what. It's a place to go for therapy, it's a place to go to validate. Yes, Rob. Okay, I got the hook. Thank you, Rob.
I have a straightforward question, more of an opinion.
Rob, could you stand up just so we can hear you? We can show you off, buddy.
Anyone can take this question, or all of you. I'm more curious about the sustainability of this technology. We all know ChatGPT is extraordinarily expensive to run, and as technology advances, or rather as the models advance and sophistication, does current hardware limit the sustainability of our ability to keep up with where this is going?
Great question.
By the way, before you answer that question, that's Rob Bonilla, Assistant District Attorney for New York City, who also fought in a charity boxing match last week. Come on, give Rob a hand. Awesome. That's my buddy. Man, I was rooting for you in the expensive VIP seat. I ate and drank. I got my money's worth.
From a technical point of view, you see two trends. One trend is you're building larger and larger models, like from 175 billion to 100 trillion, 3.5 to 4. On the other hand, you also see the reduction of the parameters to a billion, which can function almost like 170 billion. So you will see this two trends keep on going forward. So it will become cost effective over time, just like any technology.
Over time.
I think it is. That's going to get figured out. I mean, if we continue on the current trend, it's not sustainable. But this is. I think it's going to shake out a lot like the .com did, where you had hundreds of thousands of companies and it shook down to a few. I think this game is going to be aspects of a winner take all. I think on the technology front, you go from CPUs to GPUs to ASIC platforms, very similar to what Bitcoin mining did.
Yep.
And Bitcoin mining uses a lot of renewable energy at the point of renewable energy where there's no transmission facility. So that's wasted energy, like wind power that gets generated but not used. They use it for Bitcoin mining on an ASIC platform. And so that kind of stuff is going to happen. And I think you're going to see not so much larger scale, large language models. You're going to see probably smaller, more sophisticated in recombinant structures where you add a bunch of stuff. And you can, I think you're going to see probably in the next year or two, the ability to have something like what we're talking about off net in airplane mode on your phone. Now that's ultimately sustainable, right? Because it's not using any network or compute, just what's on your phone. It won't do all the cool stuff, but it'll do a lot of practical things that are going to make your life better. And so, again, I just go back to, I think of this, how you make money doing this. It's gonna sound like really a boring thing, but you have to go study this stuff. If you're not curious about this, you're not interested, then you're gonna be one of the three types of people I see are people who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and the people who say, what happened? Right? And the what happened is too many people. We all have family and friends who are gonna be that way. They want the world tomorrow to look like it did yesterday. Well, that's not gonna happen. And at a minimum, you need to be in the top two categories. Start with watch things happen. And then once you get confidence, go make things happen.
Okay, we have time for maybe 2 or 3. I think there was someone in this corner. Was there a woman back? Yes, please stand up if you can. Thank you.
In terms of sort of the question you were asking.
A little louder.
Coming from like an enterprise solutions standpoint, how do you see cost effectiveness moving nowadays? So I'm in a law firm space as well, and as well as in the legal field. So if we're thinking about enterprise solutions, there are millions and millions of dollars to build based on your data alone. Do you see anything changing?
Pick an application. What would be one use case? Discovery.
E-discovery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the one.
So,
JP Morgan has $100 million, it's probably more than that, let's just use $100 million outside counsel bill. 10 to 15% of that is for discovery-related items, where they're doing subpoenas, they're looking for consistency, they're looking for all the things that go involved with e-discovery. This does that. Now, you can't ingest all that stuff right away. That's the cost of the training. But you think about what you're replacing. Yeah, it's expensive, but it's less expensive than the analog model, right? So, and then compliance. Think about this from a legal perspective. The compliance is fully auditable. Right now, the e-discovery is done by lawyers and sweatshops with a high error rate. So this fixes that. Now, lawyers are going to resist this because it reduces their billable hours. It changes their business model, and they're part of one of the guilds that's in threat here.
And sort of a follow-up to that, in terms of the client data alone, I know when you were saying you did sort of these resumes for yourself,
Yeah.
and you're putting in that information.
Yeah.
Are you getting any sort of hallucinations based on that because it's very specific data, or is there still concern even if you're training it on client data proprietary, that you can still get wrong answers or false information coming back?
I'll leave it to the technical guys that know more about it. I would just say garbage in, garbage out.
Frank, you want to say? Frank, you?
Yeah. So I just want to say, so the way you use the language models, Tom, is actually like the way we're all going to use it. You're using more than one. You're using GPT, using Bard, but I don't know if you, but Microsoft Edge browser, you can actually access GPT-4, not the little crappy search one in Bing, but it's full GPT-4 for free, and it's also it's fully functional, but it's you don't have to pay for it. The other one is that the Bing image creator actually runs DALL-E, which is like Mid-Journey version 4. But I mean, from a lot of the people, and I don't know if you use it, but you just jump from one model to another.
I played with all of those that you said.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not good at it, so I try to learn and get better. I did like a mouse filing their taxes in Pixar style, and I got a great picture. But I also get crappy pictures when I do it. So, but I follow guys on Twitter who are creating photorealistic images of models, like wearing Gucci outfits in the weirdest positions, and they'll go back in time and they'll show things. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, why would you ever have a photo shoot and pay supermodels crazy rates when you can just generate it? Now this is all done in the last couple months. Where's it going to be in January, right? It's going to be off the charts, incredible, and so it's going to totally change content creation.
So, folks, oh my goodness. Let me do this. We're going to get kicked out of here in about 25 minutes. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to wrap this hopefully a little applause for my colleagues. I'll make an announcement with Jermaine. Yes, please. Jermaine, come on up, we'll make a little quick announcement, and then we're all here, so we can talk, you could meet all the rock stars here that we're talking on the panels, and then we could wrap. Oh, by the way, where are we going? Whoever wants to go. Where are we?
I don't know the name of it, it just says pub. You walk out of here, leave, you turn right, and it's just the pub that's right there.
All the Irish people know where it is.
Yeah, I'll lead the charge at 8 o'clock. I'll lead us all there.
Yeah, so there's probably about 12, 15 people that have already mentioned they want to go. We can continue. Okay, so let's come on up, Jimmy. Now, there's a gentleman in the corner here that had asked, what does one do? So we're going to announce something that, whoops. Oh,
And you gotta hurry up because I gotta get back to work.
Oh, man. Yeah. So twice in my career, I've launched global networks on the early stages of kind of happening trends. I did it in the early 90s with outsourcing. So I founded the Outsourcing Institute, which is still in place, outsourcing.com, about 60,000+ members. About 10 years ago, I did it kind of the front end of process automation. Robotic process automation, AI. We're going to do the same in this area of generative AI. It's called Generative Ventures Network, and it's specifically designed for people who want to keep up, who want to get access to the information they want, specifically having to do with monetizing business opportunities for themselves individually, for their company. So if you think about tools, access to experts, access to investors, collaborators, partners, etc. That's it. I don't want to steal too much thunder. I want to pass the microphone to the guy who built the damn thing. Here we go.
Appreciate it. So, guys, Generative Ventures Network is a network I built, of course, with the vision of Mr. Frank here. And it basically is focusing all on monetization for AI, ChatGPT, generative AI tools. It's a place where you don't have to go to 10 or 20 different sites to find the tools that you need. You don't have to go to 10 or 20 sites to find experts in AI. The tools are right there. There's a podcast, there's live news, there's curated content. If you are a founder and you're looking to raise funds, we have a lot of venture capitalists and family offices that I know as well. We'll have a Pitch Wednesday or Pitch Thursday where you'll pitch your ideas live on screen with 20 other people who are looking to invest in AI. It just gives you a chance to get in front of these people as opposed to cold emails and warm intros and dancing the dance that you usually dance when it comes to raising money. But
also, if I may mention that, it's not a directory. There will be directories out there. There will be search engines out there.
Yep.
Think of it as a 7x24 perpetual version of this.
What's the website? Because I'm not finding
You have it?
yeah, it's not live yet. So we're going to be launching beta probably starting tomorrow or Thursday. We're only allowing 50 people in to utilize the network. It's built on top of Mighty Network, so you will have to request, there's a sign-up sheet to get in. But for those first 50 people, I want you to test the hell out of it. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like about it. It's always updated, but it's fully interactive, it's fully engaged. But, gone are the ideas that this time last year, that if you had an idea in your head and you looked it up on Google and you wanted to see what it would take to complete that idea, whether you needed a team, front-end, back-end developers, user UI developers and things like that. And AI has completely destroyed that. You don't need those guys anymore. Now, if you want to, yeah, you can raise a team, but you can be a solopreneur. You can be a man of one, that can do what a team of 8 can do, right? But you need to know how to use these tools, and YouTube, Twitter, and all these other places, they'll show it to you. They'll show you which tools to use, but they won't teach you. You're still on your own. It's still a tool. You still have to go out, you still have to understand it, you still have to use it, right? So Generative Ventures is the place where you can come and ask AI experts and people who are in the space that want to monetize. We're not getting into ethics, we're not getting into politics. We're just teaching you how to make money with these tools. And that's it. Very simple.
And by the way, just tactically.
Where do we find the data?
Yeah, so let me mention that because I know that's the next question. So I'll ask Ben, keep it simple. I'll ask Ben, hey Ben, he's already drinking.
Oh, no.
He's not the guy that answered.
When he's done drinking and eating, no, tonight or tomorrow, if you're here, you'll be notified.
Okay.
And I'll just say, if this, it's not a sales pitch, you just, we have over 100,000 people on our network. There'll be 50 people on the beta. If you want to get in, just respond quickly, let you in, start using it, and then we're going to flip it to a subscription-based model, and it'll be, there's going to be a free-based model, and then there's going to be like a subscription-based, the price of a Wall Street Journal subscription, except it's not about content. It's community, advisory, coaching, etc. It's pretty cool. And
You have webinars and live podcasts and things like that, and how to build an app in 20 minutes, fully powered by GPT with no coding experience. So, stuff like that, it's just really cool stuff where we won't be the only one, but we will at least, start to be the place where you can fully curated content and tools and webinars and teachings and things like that will be in one place. So.
okay. I'll just do one more thing. Thank you so much.
Just wrapping up, let you guys network a little bit more, speaking of community. So I'm going to share with you two things as we wrap up. One is, I read, and maybe Ron, you may know about this, I'm not sure, but I read, have you ever seen the headshots, the cool headshots that you can get? This is what I'm told. You tell me if this is an urban myth or not. But I read that, so one of the apps created, you give you a headshot, and it gives you all these, whatever, dozens of cool shots of you looking really cool and futuristic. And people use them for their, whatever, their headshots on social media, right? Supposedly the story is, a couple of guys took that app that was already created, put like a friendly front end on it, and sold it, and did like $500,000 or $600,000 in a couple of months. So now, I'm not about get rich quick schemes, but on a positive note, let's say you're in HR. Let's say you have a side hustle. You create HR manuals for your company or for a few companies. And you get this idea to say, hey, maybe I could create HR manuals for other companies and do it, like in 15 minutes and make a lot of dough. You may make more of your side hustle, you probably will, than your day job. At some point, that would probably be your job. So it doesn't have to be exciting, get rich quick kind of things. Could be a primary income, could be a secondary income. So now here's the bad news story. So at one point, I don't remember the year, I didn't have time to check, but did anybody here ever have, you have to be over 40 for this, so sorry, behalf of the room. Anybody ever have a Sony Walkman here? I had the first one, it was cool. Ooh, I had the first one, I had the second one. I had, remember being at the gym with that thing, you good were cool, like that 3-pound thing, like, I had the CD one and everything. That was such a moneymaker for Sony for so many years. They made billions of dollars of that. So here's another urban myth. Here's a story I heard. There's a bunch of guys at Sony headquarters kind of celebrating like the latest version of whatever that was of Sony Walkman, the latest one, super cool CD player, whatever. Maybe he puts 2 in there, it's faster, better headphones. And they're excited about this upcoming announcement they're going to make when, not too far away, Apple was about to announce streaming music in iTunes. And that blew up that entire business. So what do I mean? So many of us, some of you, some people in my group right now, we're probably celebrating Sony Walkman, our current business model. So, and streaming is coming. So I urge you all to really think about whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a doctor, whether you're in publishing, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in finance, whatever you may be, and really be proactive and get there, before it ends up just getting you on your heels, right? So I'm a big believer the best defense is offense. I think I opened with that. So congratulations to you all on getting the hook, and have a couple of drinks, and then hopefully we'll see you down the corner. Thank you.
I tried that. That's hilarious. It's a way to like put it in ways
That's how you get far. You can take any complex concept.
get them started.
Great to see you.
Hey, if we could put the screen up, I'd be great. Sweet.
You gotta get the water in there.
Yeah. Oh, up here?
Oh, yeah.
My friend, by the way, so I'm actually, I'm working in game development. So I'm working a lot of I'm not really simply kind of working development. But yeah, I'm really into it. It's not just chat models, I'm also doing the visualizers as well, which is a different game. It's not a game. For most people, they can't really replace them. Even in the fusion models themselves, one of them is you'll start to see things like video and storytelling and books generated right now. AI is about 7 years old. I'm really excited Are they visually inverted or are they neurally inverted?
There we go. Oh, nice. You're right. Yeah. We got one more color. The thing is, I don't
That's a very good question because like everyone, when they're talking about it, they're talking essentially through like the reputation. And the problem with that is it's kind of limited, and it also forgets within about an hour but with the API method, it's programmatic, so one, you can actually train something that has a system because it's connected to a program and store the data in the system. But it's also the output is as much as you want to do, but it's totally so, but it's really cheap. So the GPT-4 model, they basically have, you get the $3 payment, you get like 20,000 total. And even if it doesn't fit,
Thank you so much for tuning in virtually. We're going to be coming to cities around the world and New York City, doubling down. Don't miss the next one. Hey, what do you got to say?
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you heard it.
I hope so too. Luckily it was free, so you can't complain. You got to complain, hit up Friday. All right, we're wrapping. We still got 4 people on. Nice.